Earlier, I pointed toward attention that rarely feels intentional. It usually feels like misunderstanding. Someone interprets something differently than expected. The message lands slightly off. A decision is carried forward in a way that was not intended. And from the outside, it looks like miscommunication. Something to clarify. Something to restate. But when it happens more than once, in slightly different ways, something quieter begins to emerge. Not a single misunderstanding, a pattern of interpretation. And once that pattern begins, it does not stay isolated. It spreads throughout the system. This shows up first in how direction is received. A leader expresses something clearly, but what moves forward carries slight variation. No single variation feels incorrect. It stays hidden because each version can be explained. Context shifts, language adapts, people adjust based on what they understand. And from the outside, it looks like flexibility. From the inside, something begins to train itself. And over time, interpretation becomes learned. People begin to anticipate what something means based on prior experience, not current expression. A message is no longer heard fresh. It is filtered. The cost arrives gradually, not as breakdown, not as immediate confusion. The cost is distortion. Direction still exists, but it no longer arrives intact. And it keeps going because each interpretation reinforces the next. No single movement, no single moment interrupts it. No single instance feels large enough to question. And over time, the gap between what is said and what is understood becomes harder to trace. What if people learn to hear when you speak what you've never intended to teach? Now, if this is a live session and there were people talking in this, speaking and talking right now, we'll start seeing some patterns surface. Some would describe repeating the same direction without seeing it land the same way twice. Others would notice how often they clarify after something has already moved forward. Someone might recognize how their language has become more careful over time. Another might describe a growing distance between intention and outcome. There will be stories of leaders who feel understood in principle, but misinterpreted in execution. 'Execution. 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 ' teams that respond quickly, but not always precisely. Someone notices that interpretation happens faster than confirmation. Others recognize that past patterns shape present understanding. No one would call it training. They would call it experience. And over time, that experience begins to define meaning. The patterns would sound reasonable. That's why they persist. Now, this tension does not need to be resolved here. It does not require correction, while you're watching this video. You can carry it back with you without restating anything. Just notice what moves and how it changes as it does. And let whatever belongs to that become visible in its own time.